I've seen a million headlines that say, TMZ included, Joe Budden bashes Cardi B song.
So what's up everybody and welcome back to another episode. So Cardi B is fed up with Joe Budden. On Thursday, the Bronx rapper took to X Spaces to share her frustrations with all the criticism she's been receiving from Budden over her highly anticipated album. She says Joe Budden is obsessed with criticizing me up and down. It's really getting me frustrated because it's like, bro, leave me alone. I don't understand this about Joe Budden. First, you're always talking about how you got a source from Atlantic Records that be telling you about my album, and that's a lie. She then made it clear that only two people have her music, her and her music engineer, meaning Atlantic Records can't drop her album for her. She added that whenever she has meetings, there are no more than 5 people in the room, so it's impossible to get information out of her team. Every 5-6 months you're comparing another female rapper towards me. You compare new artists, you compare old artists, you compare every single artist to me. She then went on to make some other allegations.
Rule the World came out with Nas, Lauryn Hill. Curtis Blow had just made If I Rule the World, what? Was that 85, 86? I think 85. I think 85.
It's not that separate.
90%, only a decade had passed and most people had we had no recollection outside of the music heads of that song. It's like the window's getting smaller and smaller for what people remember. Like, I don't even know if these kids, they remember early Drake.
Does it have something to do with how we're just consuming music today? Like,
that's what I was going to ask y'all. I don't know the answer. I want to know what the music experts thought.
I think a lot of it has been, traditionally we were, rap has started off on sampling. Like, that's the genesis of rap, right? Whether it's Sugar Hill Gang taking the disco
Chic.
record.
Yeah, they took Chic, like a rip Chic.
That's where rap has started from. What we've never experienced and that I remember is not paying homage to those who kind of came before you and created it. So even with the Cardi record, which is actually growing on me.
Is it?
It's growing. It is.
Everything sound good when you get your girl back.
Yeah, that's true. You like outside too, huh?
Yeah, it's growing on me.
That shit hot.
But on some level, I do want to hear someone having a conversation of this is imaginary players, and to move it back to Hov. So at least the conversation between the two can be like, oh shit.
Well, in fairness, Imaginary Players went to like the Billboard charts after its release
for the first time.
And I do think also that's again rosy colored glasses. In hip hop, we would sample shit and not give a fuck what record that was coming from. Like,
it was eating samples.
There were some people that were very respectful. There were some people just on some whatever record. Sounds cool. We put it in. And would get mad when they couldn't clear the sample because like, nah, who the fuck are you to not clear this? Like.
Like
that was that person's record.
That hit in the 70s.
But we've never. I don't think we've.
I got a beef about that too. Right? Like fucking since our last pod, I've seen a million headlines that say, TMZ included, Joe Budden bashes Cardi B song. Joe Budden overly critiques and gives Cardi the business. Joe Budden explodes on Cardi B. Like, I've seen, those are the headlines I've seen, which is right. Like I'd be like, oh, see, this bitch ass version of hip hop today. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, I should be able to listen to somebody who I enjoy and say, hey, this is what I like about this. This is what I don't like about this. Before the business of gossiping takes over the business of music and the art of loving music.
That's what I hate.
And then you turn that into, because I love Cardi B, now you turn that into, oh, he hates her.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then that turns into something else. They got a whole list of people I hate, and it's like, dog, we got to stop being
I'm doing
soft.
my job at this point.
But that's where the time-space compression thing becomes interesting to me. Like, I was a music reviewer. That was my first sort of writing job.
Really?
I wrote for
at the Blue Note Jazz.
it was firstly Pop Matters.
Cracker Barrel.
Gregory Abbott.
At Cracker Barrel.
It's Gregory Porter's Fuck
Gregory Abbott.
And no, but I reviewed hip hop albums.
Did you have a pseudonym?
Yeah, I did.
Who was your pseudonym?
I'm not gonna tell you, but I reviewed for in my own name for Pop Matters, and I reviewed for like Source, XXL. I reviewed for all of them from like in the aughts. And the thing back then was we would get a record or we get an album in March, and we were hyped to get the record because no one else had it.
Right.
And it was a physical CD.
Yeah, of course.
And then we would listen to it for 2 months, and I had to write a review for over those 2 months. Or it was usually like a month or two. A month was more common on record labels. They were slow, and then we publish it, and then it would come out 2 months later. And so by the time it came out, the public had consumed the record. They knew that we'd taken it seriously and sat with it. And the conversation was about the music. Whereas if I had put on the internet that day, the conversation would have been about, oh, so-and-so trashes track 3, 4, 5, and 6. Or so-and-so says, you know, and I think that's just how social media works. Like, there's no space for that. That's what I find frustrating. Because what you said about the album and what you said about the album, or the single, and what I said about the single were all basically the same. Right. And none of it was trashing it.
But also, too, that it didn't allow you to, because of the time between the opinion and kind of watching it settle, like Outkast was slept on at the beginning. There was a lot of, most of the things that came outside of New York before New York or the East Coast understood it was always trash. It was always like West Coast music was trash prior to it, right? And until the game caught up. So the biggest problem is there's no incubator period anymore. It's like your opinion, and then it drops, and there's no incubator period for somebody to be like, hold on, let me kind of wait.
But the opinion becomes the story and not the music. That's what I get frustrated from.
The opinion is,
you know,
but it's always been that. It's always been that way.
Yes and no.
It's always been that way.
I don't feel like it's always been like
that.
Yeah,
because y'all from the East Coast. When you outside the East Coast, we've always felt like that. Niggas trash Bone Thugs and Harmony when they first came out. Niggas trash Nelly when it first came. Like he first came.
See, but when you, I don't identify when you say niggas because again, I've always been a music lover. And at a certain point, when I was in Queens ran shit. So it wasn't nothing but Run DMC, L, Cool J. We didn't have to think about nobody. Rakim, it was New York. When I left Queens, but even in Queens, because I was in Queens with Criss Cross and all that shit, but when I got to Jersey, like, I loved hearing everybody. I loved the Master P era, the Bone Thugs. Crucial Conflict. I love the West Coast niggas coming in. I loved what New York was doing. I loved what Jersey was doing with Apache and fucking Lords of the Underground. I loved the Fushnikins. I loved music. I was trying to explain this shit to my son the other day. I'm like, yo, dog, I hear you a rapper. I know. When I was your age, when I was younger,
your love and our love for music is different, Joe.
You had to pull me back in the house. I was outside looking for rapping. Where is rapping going on? You couldn't stop me. There's nothing my mom could do with me.
So you have a different love.
My mom could not keep me from hip hop.
You're an anomaly, though. A lot of those writers for The Source and all of that shit. Obviously, I was married to one of them. That didn't work like that.
You're telling me about writers.
But that's how. But I'm
talking about lovers compared to people who just have
about. And most of those writers, we love music and we're music heads. But see,
that's the problem.
Yeah, but loving music wasn't always a prerequisite to be a writer.
That is true.
Like we lucked out and just had movie about it. We lucked out and had Ralph McDaniels, or we lucked out with the people and the publications that you could tell loved this. When I went and copped the new episode of the new magazine Yo or whatever it was, Right Up, like.
Blaze.
I could tell that whoever's doing this love hip hop. No, because y'all put the poster in there for me to take. Y'all telling me what's new that may not be like.
But y'all controlled it though. Y'all controlled the East Coast. New York controlled the narrative. It wasn't until the West Coast came and created their dominance that it was like, okay, we gonna share. But when the South came in, it wasn't welcoming. It wasn't welcoming at all.
No. But everybody gets a turn. So everybody gets a turn.
Now there's the road is quicker travel. So you say something about a single today, that shit is all over tomorrow. As opposed to letting that shit percolate and build, and then being able to come back and be like, okay, I might have been.
The road is also a lot more crowded.
It's also a downside of the medium and the popularity of the platform. You got to look at that as a blessing, annoying as it may be. One of the biggest podcasts. Your opinion is one of the most important opinions.
Yeah, but there's no space to give that.
I view me as a gate protector. I won't call it
not to
keeper.
The motherfucker you shitting on.
But see, again, like
if you shitting on him, you a keeper.
I don't mind.
I'm protecting the gate from them.
See, I don't mind Joe's opinion being the headline if people focused on the analysis. It just becomes more gossip. It feels like it's not a music criticism.
Oh, sure.
But we know how.
But I feel like that's a microcosm for the whole business. It's like the people who know music don't talk about music. Like I couldn't do music reviews now in 2025 because I don't know enough about this era of music. I'm not into it, and I could get back to it.
And I'd be so taken aback because of the privilege that like when I was rapping. All of the people that had all of that shit to say about albums and albums reviews, they didn't know nothing about creating an album or making an album. They didn't have none of that. So sometimes it just be this fucking geeky ass nigga that's kicking your shit, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
That's where it moved.
It's Mark.
But that's where it moved.
That's what I'm not telling the pseudonym.
That's where, in the digital
I'm trashing
era,
on multiple platforms.
Oh shit!
In the digital era, that's where it moved to. But in the writing era, when it was Blaze and Double XL and Source and whatever else, you had people from the culture, and you wanted everybody wanted 5 mics.
I'm about to say I missed the mic system.
Yeah, it meant something.
Me too.
Until it didn't.
But those were people from the culture speaking on the culture.
Yes and no. So I mean, if you think about
verse of the month.
Yeah. Verse of the month was it.
You're looking at a multiple time verse of the month winner.
Yeah, that meant something.
But do you remember when she became Miss Info? When Miss Info wrote the Illmatic review? When Nas got 5 mics, people were like, "Who the fuck get? Why are you giving?"
Yeah, but Minion, she knows.
No, I'm not saying she don't know. I mean, I'm not saying she don't know. But I'm just saying sometimes those people outside the culture who also had a perspective.
She went outside the culture though.
Why do you say outside the culture?
Went outside the culture.
Not because she's Asian.
Only because she's Asian. She went outside the culture.
You know what? I stand down on that. But that was the criticism, is more what I'm saying. But you're right. That was
like,
an unfair
who was she
criticism.
to be able to give that type of?
But the thing is this:
because people thought Illmatic shouldn't have got 5 mics.
If somebody said that she rated, if somebody said she rated that album wrong, look at the album. She was 100% right.
Oh, she was 1,000% right.
Your perception of her because she wasn't black or Latino was wrong.
And just to
she
be
was 100%.
And just be clear, the Source, it was a committee that gave the mics. It was a single person that wrote the review.
Yeah.
Because I've written reviews for the Source for some major albums. I never had a vote on the mic because I wasn't a staff member. So it is 2 separate things. But they just did a joint last week. I just looked at Black Star's review. They got 3.5 mics on the Source.
Wow.
Well,
Smith Wesson got 4 for their joint.
I think they're trying to trying to rehash one of those times. But when you go from when John Schechter and Dave was there, and they were really rating 2 kids from Harvard, and then even when Benzino came in, those mics meant something because they were credible.
Until they weren't.
When did they stop being credible to y'all?
When Lil Kim got 5 mics.
I knew you were going to say.
Or when Made Men shot the Benzino.
No, Made Men is when. No, I love Benzino. That's my man. But like when Made Men got the mics, that's when
they might have got 5 or they got 4.5 or something.
I think they got 5.
They might have got 5. I don't know.
When Lil Kim got 5 for that last album,
Put Your Lighters,
an album that
which was a good album.
Which is a great album.
Good album, but it's a 4 mic album.
Yeah,
at best.
Yeah, but
some people would also say it was when, I won't say it, but
no, say it.
Nah, you talking about
the allegations.
Yeah,
the lawsuit.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm just talking strictly how we looked at their reviews. They lost credibility.
They lost a lot of credibility.
It's shit I know about during that period that I mean, I know a lot of shit about that period.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I mean, prior to that, they got shit wrong. But the shit they got wrong, I don't believe Outkast's first album was properly credited. I could be wrong, but
I don't remember what it got.
I think it got 4.
I think it was. I think it got 4 too.
They came back and kind of
the ATL has got 4.5
because they did a story where they kind of redid.
I remember when they reassessed some mics.
But it takes time for the culture to grow, for people to understand what they're seeing.
For sure,
we never seen shit like Outkast. We never seen shit like UGK.
Yeah,
right. We never see like Ghetto Boys was the start of groups in the South, but they were so much like. I mean, I want to say, what's the dude with the long beard?
Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin was a part of the album. So even second album,
or he remixed one of their early
like a Geo,
albums.
I think whatever that. So he had. It was a point where New York always had to put their hands on it until even with Ice Cube, Death Certificate, which I believe got 5 mics.
I think so, yeah.
That was heavily Bomb Squad. By the time New York understood what the voice of hip hop sounded like outside the culture. It took a little minute to catch up. But they were all still voices of the culture. This is now just opinions.
Is hip hop still here in 100 years?
Yes. Yeah, but it's diluted down to something that we don't recognize.
No. Nah, it'll still be here.
It's still here. I mean, blues is still here. Like, I think shit will last.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll still be here. It might not be the mainstream.
Blues is still here.
Yeah,
right.
Pop culture.
Who is the newest blues artist? So, like, just who have you heard last?
That
blues
nigga
project?
Centers.
Skies are blue.
You're not entirely wrong.
You're not entirely wrong,
Raindrops
but keep in mind, for me, the best thing about blues is standards, right? So even when it's older artists or random artists doing those blues standards again, if you do What a Man is always going to be ba-ba-na-na-na. Like, that's always going to be.
Yeah.
Let's say I don't give a who's singing it, right?
Okay, but what happens when
blues
ba-da-da-da gets sounding like
then blues is hip hop.
how people downplay the boom pat era, right?
That's fair.
Blues is hip hop then.
But I think more
Hip-hop
blues
is
artists
blues,
will come
for
in
sure.
there, and there are blues artists out there. But I'm just saying it's about the new artists, but it's also about the traditional standards. It's like gospel, right? It's about I'm not talking about modern gospel. I'm talking about the classic gospel. I think it's about the new choirs, but it's also about singing them old songs. And I think that's what hip hop may be at some point. I think it'll be new artists doing interesting things, just like we see in jazz. But it'll also be about standards. It'll be
It's happening. It's happening right now.
We said 100 years.
100. I know what you're saying.
Okay, so 100 years from now, look at rock and roll. That's black music.
Yeah,
It's not the same right now.
it's not the same.
You can't call rock and roll black music when it's 100% black.
Well, which is why I said, which is when you
okay
take
with
genres and you start to dilute it to a point where you don't even recognize what the actual product was.
So prior to this fallout, you got the top three was Kendrick, Cole, and Drake. Prior to the big fallout, Kendrick and Cole. Cole and
that's
Drake
still the big
are
three, by
both
the way.
half white. Both half white. The highest selling rapper of all time.
They black, man. Come on.
They're half white. It don't matter. They're half white. The highest selling rapper of all time is nobody even close. It's Eminem. Oh, it's moving into that direction. Nobody is close. Eminem's the only rapper in the top 10 all-time selling artists of all time. Second is Drake. He's at like number 20. 30 million records apart.
I think, and this is the argument I've been having for decades now, I just don't think that commercial album sales is the best way to measure hip-hop consumption.
Okay, so
more than any other genre.
Prior to where we see rock and roll now, it was a black art form.
Yeah.
We see where it is now. They don't even equate it to. They'll say Elvis is the king of rock and roll.
That turnover was much quicker, and it was also a very different time, though. That was the advent, essentially, of recorded music. And the switch over from blackness to whiteness in terms of strictly rock and roll may have happened in less than 10 years, honestly.
Absolutely.
But also the desire to want to own that piece of property was way quicker. Corporate America is now starting to say, okay, we really, really want this property. We don't know what that shit is going to look like in 100 years. Eminem could be the king of rap. Who's going to deny it if
that's
there's
a fair
no
point.
gatekeeping?
There's no way to forecast what's going to be in 100 years. The
100
world
years
changes too fast. I
way
agree.
That's a lot.
But I think hip-hop is secure enough in the public imagination, in pop culture, that it will be a thing. Now, what it looks like, you're absolutely, it could be co-ops, it could get gentrified like anything else can get gentrified.
It already is.
It already is, right?
I don't like that we cut our brains off to say that we'll never know what it'll look like 100 years from now. Well, true, but
We have examples.
does that mean that
You got examples.
we shouldn't look and think about it?
No, we should, but I'm just saying, like, and to me,
Like the best indicator for what's to come is what has already happened.
so look at jazz. That's a good example. So to me, jazz might be the best indicator, or gospel.
But I don't even have to go there because right now I have over 50 years of hip hop, which is not a small sample size.
Huge sample
And
size,
the
yeah.
biggest artist of all time, not even close, is Eminem.
And I don't agree with that. That's
No. Sales wise, you don't have to.
But
agree
again,
with it.
I don't
Sales
think,
wise,
I don't
he's
think
number
sales
10.
for hip hop is the best. If I were to look at jazz sales, right?
Kenny G would be number
Kenny
one.
G might be number
Kenny
one,
G.
right? And in his era, Paul Whiteman was the one, right? Ironically, but like maybe 80 years ago, right? So, but I don't think there's anybody who's a jazz head, casually or hardcore, that would put Kenny G in the top 100.
So explain to me how, if we create a rock and roll, how we're at a point where purists is not acknowledging that rock and roll is a black music art form.
I think that's a great question and a great point. I just think that rock and roll rock and roll went. There's this moment of splitting where some people who were rock and rollers became soul artists and who became race record makers and who became and I think that what became rock and modern rock and soft rock and heavy metal and all these other things became the dominant face of rock. And I think that is your point's well taken there. That became a white thing. That's not where hip hop is going. That's not where jazz is going. And that's not to say that jazz artists, that white people haven't taken over jazz. But that's the audiences, that's the Smithsonian. But when you think of jazz, I'm still thinking of Coltrane. I'm still thinking of
Mark, let me just ask you a question real quick. So with rock and roll, you don't think that there's a point where a new rock and roll artist today, white, could be totally clueless to the fact that Little Richard and Chuck Berry are the, like,
I think that's been happening.
I think that is the case.
So
I'm just saying, I don't think that the other genres are following that in the exact same way.
By the way,
that's all I'm saying.
By the way,
like for example, I don't think there's anybody who would say blues is white.
By the way,
even though blues has also been overtaken by lots of white people.
Since the 60s, it's been overtaken.
But they're not the face of it. Like when you think of blues,
shit, Eric Clapton wasn't the face of blues for fucking
and
he was. He was.
I don't know if you would think of him as the face, but what I will say is,
I'm thinking of BB King.
We went to when we were.
I'm thinking.
I know you are.
Blues artists.
I kind of grew up in the blues. I can talk this language pretty fluently. I remember recently we were in. Is it Nashville or New Orleans?
You identify with Eric Clapton is what you're saying.
No, I don't identify with Eric Clapton.
I fuck with Eric Clapton.
He's got slaps though,
yeah.
And he can play. He can play. He's like the Eminem of blues. Anyway,
yeah, absolutely.
We were at a fucking. It's not exactly blues, but we were at a venue. I think it was either Nashville or New Orleans, and the band just got done playing "I Shot the Sheriff" and said, "That was a great Eric Clapton song. We're gonna move on to." It was like,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I was starting to fight.
I was screaming from the fucking balcony.
So my point is, our point though.
So my point is,
tell me how.
The same as you said. Number one is Eminem.
I'm saying that I was talking about how Eric Clapton was the face of blues, even though that was a reggae example.
So my
for a while
is,
he was.
So my point is, when you say Eminem is number one and Drake is number two, those become the face. They can pitch that story however they want because they're going to look at the same way as Eric Clapton. What me and Amani are saying is, when I think of blues, I don't think Eric Clapton.
But I guess my question for you is, why does the rock track, that track, seem more akin to hip hop than what we see with blues and gospel and jazz and all these other tracks where black people still are the face of it? Because part of the coolness of jazz is wanting to be cool like Miles, cool like Coltrane, cool like Bird.
Because prior to hip hop, the most dominant art form prior to that was rock and roll. Blues never took off, not in the dominance of that. And by the way, even in R&B, traditional R&B, we're seeing the whitewashing of R&B. We're seeing the Jonas. Like I'm not talking. Listen, I think
Jonas Brothers.
Jonas Brothers is doing R&B music.
They don't call that R&B.
It don't matter. That's what they're doing. Is R&B music. Adele is R&B music, and traditionally how we wrote R&B records. We've grown and strayed apart from it. But those guys, those artists is making R&B records.
We've heard Tank speak about the Sam Smith shit.
Sam Smith, yeah.
So
this is not the blues. Stop.
This is not the blues.
This is not
great
the blues.
song.
But it's a fucking slap.
It's a slap.
it's that shit though.
That's my point right there. It's not the blues.
But again, my point is just that we've seen hip hop for 50 years now, right? It took a very long time for white people outside. Eminem might be the only one, Beastie Boys, I guess, that was like kind of accepted.
Base. Yeah, third
base, but they weren't. Third base wasn't selling at the level of
absolutely.
Beastie Boys and Eminem. So we're
Vanilla
still
Ice,
here, and the
Vanilla
biggest
Ice.
artists are still black.
Vanilla Ice? No, the
Flashes in the pan.
The biggest artists aren't black. The biggest artists, if we look at sales, is Eminem and Drake. They're not black.
But yeah, he did say 100 years from now. So I mean, 100 years.
You keep looking at the sales, right? And I'm not really an advanced analytics guy, like Mark said, when it comes to music. For me, the person that my ears say is and has been the best rapper also has made the most money as a musician.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't care if he didn't do it for music. I don't know, but it lines up that the person I think is the best
is the richest.
Is also the richest.
Yeah.
Right.
And
That's all I'm saying.
He won't be on nobody's top selling.
That's Eminem and Drake.
Huh?
That's Eminem and Drake. You can't put Hove in that.
Why?
Hove makes more than him.
Hove is the richest musician.
Hove money doesn't come from music.
Yes, it does.
No, it don't. Not to the extent that theirs.
It doesn't come from sales.
Not to the extent
from his album sales and his tour.
How does he get Duce or any of the other things that he's invested with if it's not for music?
None of that, and they're still at the top.
It's a result of him being an incredible musician.
Yeah. No, it's the results of being a great businessman and using
and leveraging his music to do that.
They don't leverage their music. They're straight off the music. If Eminem had Jay-Z's business acumen, he would be a fucking freak of nature. He doesn't. That's what make Hove. It's everything that he took music as a foundation and built on top of it.
I won't argue with you, but you cheapen it by just calling it business acumen, even though it's not on purpose.
I think he's the greatest to ever do it. I think he's the greatest to ever do it. But take all that other shit off.
It's mindset.
Take all that other shit off.
Mindset that you needed to make the music. The mindset that he spent his entire career in everything. And one of my talks with him, I'm like, yo, man, all this fly shit you saying, why you got to tell people this? He's like, yo, I put it in my music. I put it in my music my whole career.
He's the fucking greatest ever. But if you want to say apples to apples, then you got to take all of the amazing shit he's done in business and just talk music.
Never that. You can't.
You can't compete.
You can't.
That's my point.
But you don't have to compete.
You don't
have to compete when you make the most.
They hold their space without doing all the other amazing shit that he's done.
But look at their space. Look at that space. Yeah. It's ill. It's roaches in there. Ain't nobody trying to hold that space.
1 and 2.
But that's again.
They don't have.
I don't want to go in a circle here, but raw sales.
1 and 2.
Eminem and Drake.
But again, we're talking raw sales. I'll give you an example. If you talk to anybody who's in the reggae music and you ask them to name the top 5 reggae albums, even if you're into Bob Marley, you name the top 5. Bob Marley. Right, but my point is, the greatest selling reggae album of all time is Legends.
UB40?
Snow Informer.
UB40 might be up there. Although
it's not reggae.
Their version of I Can't Help Falling in Love with You is actually pretty good.
It is.
Which is a remake of Elvis, but anyway. My point is, Legend is the best selling one about Marley. I mean, it sells through catalogs, Columbia House, Cooked. I mean, because of how it sells, it doesn't get ranked, but it's actually sold more than just about any record you've ever imagined, any album you've ever imagined, right? But if you're a reggae head, or you're a historian of reggae, or you're just a critic, you're thinking of Burnin'. You're thinking like there's all these albums you're thinking of. You're not thinking about the compilation album, right? But so the sale. All I'm saying is the sales don't match how the culture sees it.
Same way Eagles have the best-selling rock album, I think, of all time, is their greatest hits album. No one looks at the Eagles as the greatest fucking rock band.
They're not in the conversation.
Not even.
But all I'm saying is,
Keno's from Detroit too.
I know.
All I'm saying is,
you should have started with that. I'm sorry.
Keno's from Detroit.
No.
I wish you'd have told me that 20 minutes ago. You would have saved us a whole lot of time.
I'm listening to him and I'm like, I'm
agreeing with everything y'all saying. But I'm just saying, when you look at the gentrification of it, when you're looking at 100 years, when they begin to tell those stories on where it is, they're going to start from the impact and influence. And when you look at that impact and influence, you're going to start to look at numbers.
Do you think that humanity will be as diverse as it is in 100 years?
That's a great point.
Right now?
Humanity probably is going to look like me in 100 years.
I know. That's what I'm getting
at. The rate you going, yeah. So,
what the fuck?
I think...
At the rate you go.
I couldn't resist. You just keep lining them up.
We build all kind of pyramids for you. Don't worry about it. We got
well played. No, but I think we're assuming that the white face is going to be the face of the culture, and I think it's more likely. Like when you look at how jazz has been gentrified, right? It's in the Smithsonian. It's in the clubs, but it's also in the university. They got jazz studies programs. But all these white people who've taken over jazz are using that space to talk about Charlie Parker.
Absolutely.
They use that space to talk. You get what I'm saying? So absolutely. I'm not sure that 100 years from now, even if white people have this, and I'm not sure white people will exist in the way that you're talking about in 100 years, given the diversity.
I don't know if they will.
You know, I think they'd be much more likely to be talking about Jadakiss than Eminem.
But the problem is this: we've lost that ability to, at least to me, this generation doesn't hold our greats to the highest standard. Where in jazz and other art forms they do. So what happens is you start to let the other people in.
I don't want, but let's not romanticize that.
This is how we just started.
I don't think that's the case.
I don't think that's the case either.
Listen, when he speaks on a record,
Keno's wrong.
When he speaks on a record,
I'm trying to be polite. Yes,
Keno's wrong.
How?
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
Because we don't even got to get that far in the future, and I don't want to do this because I want to be respectful. I think M is who he is.
No. I'm not saying
M is still who he is.
Don't. I think he's cherry picked.
It's been a couple generations, not too far removed from him, to totally forget about him and try to erase his existence.
He's
from
nobody's top five
They don't look at him as one of the greatest lyricists of all time, and
even
we didn't need all this time.
Please don't think I'm putting him in that because I'm not. What I'm saying.
Well, you keep saying 1 and 2 is M and Dre.
No, those are what the numbers say. I'm not saying
which numbers.
Right, numbers don't tell the story.
Oh,
bro.
See, all right. You
Again, if we're talking about numbers, Jadakiss isn't even in our conversation about greats. But I promise you, in 50 years, people will be saying more about Jadakiss than they will about a whole lot of other artists who have record sales.